about arguments in GameMaker and a common error that comes up that causes a script not to run because the arguments do not match up. So here's an example of a game. It's a tic-tac-toe game, but when script 0 runs, it's causing an error. So the error reads, error in action 1 of step event for board object. Illegal argument count calling script 0. Script requires 0 arguments. 5 have been supplied. So this script is not using any arguments, but 5 are being passed in. It's nice to keep track of an issue. Sometimes I will just take a snip of a message or copy it and paste it somewhere so I have it and I can go back and look at it, because it will tell us where to look and what the issue is. So we need to look in the step event of object board. So here we are in object board in the step event, and we can see that we're calling script 0 and it says execute script with 5 arguments. So if I check out script 0, and I can see I've just added in a line of code here that I'm going to show you in a moment. This wasn't here before, it's just commented out. I can see that no argument 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are being used, but when it's called, argument 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are all here. If I try to just delete the zeros, I find this a little bit glitchy, and even after I get rid of the zeros, it still has these arguments. It's just no longer assigned anything. It looks empty. I don't know if it's only declaring the variables now and it's not instantiating them, or if it's instantiating them with like a null value, but it's still setting up those arguments, and if we try to run this code as is right now, it's still going to fail. So again, we have the same issue. It still has 5 arguments being supplied when the script only requires 0. So if we come back again to the code, a couple things you could do is you could just do something with these arguments even if you're not using them, and that will cause it to now run. So now I click and there's a different error, but it has nothing to do, this game just isn't completed. It has to do with incomplete parts of it. It made it past calling the script and having 5 arguments. It made it past that point and got into line 13 of the script. Okay, so this works, but it's probably not the best practice to have arguments that you don't need. Another option would be just to set up the name of the script using the proper way. So I'll get rid of handling these 5 arguments, these 5 parameters, and instead I'm going to name the script something. I could call it script board and put the name up here as well. I can say that there's no arguments like this, and instead of using this to execute script, if instead I make some of my own code and I say I want to call str underscore, and you can see now that the script that I've made is now an option, not just the built-in functions, but the one that I've made. And it has no parameters being passed in. So these brackets here, normally we'd put the arguments or the parameters or the variables that the script needs in here, but it doesn't need any. So I'll just leave it blank and save it. So now it's going to execute a piece of code. So now it's going to execute a piece of code, SCR board, and you can see inside the brackets it's empty. Let's see what happens when we run it. And again, we're able to get into that script all the way into line 14, so we know that we don't have any issues with the arguments anymore. We just have to finish doing the code. So that works nicely. It handles the arguments and it allows us to run this script. So I would recommend using a method such as this to run your script.